my name is Chrissy Clements. Everyone watches AccessTV.org.
Welcome to another segment of All Politics is Local with your host, R. Joe Wentz. And today we're just going to be having a conversation about the political situation and how all politics is local, how that affects you right at your door. So I want to make sure that you are remembered to tune in regularly to AccessTV.org, to All Politics is Local, to see what the hot topics are every single week, coming to you by your phone, your television, or on your computers while you sit around in your pajamas and relax and enjoy All Politics is Local. Today I'm just having a chit chat with Lorre. Hi Lorre, how are you?
I'm doing well, Arjo.
Good to see you.
It's always good to see you.
Absolutely. And before we got started on the show, we were having a heated conversation about, community and politics and, how those things affect us. And you were talking about the 47% that the Republicans talked about at the last election, and you were saying some things about, how that affect those people.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to just understand how our president did get elected based off the fact that the numbers showed, there's that 47%, and they're the lower middle class families, right? And, how much of an impact it had in the voting. Okay, and you were going in talking. We were getting into more about the programs that are out there, the different kinds of programs to help those families. How does that play into the final decision of voting?
Yeah, one of the things that I think that the Republicans couldn't understand either, because the numbers don't equate. So there's no time 47% going to ever beat 53% mathematically. But when you start talking about who that 47% was, those are our senior citizens, those are our retired veterans, those are adults with special needs, those are college students. So when you start talking about who those people are, then you can figure out, okay, why the numbers just were not in their favor. And not only that, I think that they got paid to get the advice. They got the advice that they were paying for. Okay. Because they greatly outspent President Obama and the Democrats, because all of the Republicans were buying into the numbers also. Okay. So they paid their money because they wanted to have an influence on the government once he got elected. Okay. So that's why you saw them putting in, I'm going to put in my $5 million, I'm going to put in my $3 million, I'm going to put in my $30 million. I wish I had that money to build a school, to build a college, to do other things that people really needed, to have done to better their lives. But however, that's what politics is about. It's a representative government. Okay. So what we do as the people is we say we want this certain type of government. So thank God that we're not that government that Governor Romney was trying to give us.
And thank God on so many different other levels.
Absolutely, and women too. I always want to continue to praise the women, because if it had not been for us saying no, we're not going to let you dictate what we do with our bodies. No, we're not going to let you dictate what happens to our young girls and our teenagers and our daughters. We're not going to let the government dictate those things. They're going to have the right to do that for themselves.
Amen to that.
You see? So it's all that kind of stuff. So when people start talking about I don't get involved in politics, by you not getting involved, you are involved. Exactly. Because if you don't cast a vote, you're definitely going to get the leadership and the government that you don't want. So we talked a little bit about, Hillary in 2016 and what that means, for the country, to actually have our first woman president.
That would be nice.
That would be wonderful.
And we were talking about just the great support system. You have Obama, right? And you have Clinton, because he's had a great following, and he continues to show in the numbers that he is a good advocate on any political
Absolutely.
side.
He brings it right home.
That's right. So
and then you're going to have Joe Biden.
Yes.
So what we don't want to see, I don't want to see is Hillary and Biden in the primary against each other.
Wow.
I want the Democrats, all right, listen to me, Congressman Wasserman, the Democratic chair of the National Democratic Party. I want you all to resolve that issue before it gets to the convention.
Wow.
Because we do not want to have that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So we give Joe Biden 8 years as the vice president, well, Hillary 2016.
Mm-hmm.
It's our time.
Mm-hmm.
Our meaning women. It's our time.
Now, you had mentioned, just on the sidebar conversation we were having, talking about the reality of a third term. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm trying to understand. I didn't think after 2 terms that was it.
Well, currently that's what the Constitution says.
Okay.
However, remember it's the people who send them to Congress, who send them to the Senate.
Okay.
So if the people are advocating for, we need to change our laws, because in other countries, in non-parliamentary countries, the monarchies, they run for life.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that we want to have a monarchy in the United States of America. However, maybe 8 years of a single president might not be enough.
Right.
So if President Bill Clinton had not have run into the trouble that he ran into, he would have been another president. That if there could have been a third term, that would have been definitely one,
Absolutely.
that America wanted. And I know many people are going to talk about the whole situation with him, but I will tell you that Hillary wasn't leaving them. I wasn't either. That was strictly,
right.
I didn't elect him to be a great husband.
That's right.
I elected him to be a great president.
That's right.
And
he
that
did
he
his part.
was.
Absolutely.
This country had never seen such a surplus, and unemployment was at its all-time low under President Clinton, because he understands what he got many of you to understand: basic arithmetic.
Wow. Powerful.
So it's not
Good
I'm not trying to advocate for the greatest husband. I'm trying to keep the best president in office. So that's what the people said, and that's why he still is popular today.
That's
While
wonderful.
people still listen to him, because he brings it right home to the people where they
Yes,
can
he
understand it.
He
So
does.
when individuals are talking about, things that happen in politics, if you keep it up there on that level,
Right.
people are not going to understand it. But if you get it to your door, where it's about your children having the right to go to school, and in other countries, what many people may not know is that secondary education is also free.
What do you mean? Can you explain that a little?
College. Children go to college for free.
Mm.
And now the taxes are higher,
Okay.
because somebody has to pay for the education, but their government guarantees them through college a 4-year degree
That would be nice.
for zero. Now our government mandates that our children have to have a high school equivalency for free. But just think, if we all band together
It's
the same
possible
way
to
that
do
we
the same.
banded together, on the presidency this year for a Democrat, and we also got to remember 2014 is going to be a very important year. 2014 is that midterm. That's where we lost the House, because many of us elected a Democratic president and forgot he needed a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate to get a lot of our issues passed.
Okay.
A lot of our bills passed, because Republicans were adamant about the one thing that they were going to do is repeal the Obamacare until some of their constituents start saying, hey, wait a minute. You can't repeal
That's right.
Obamacare, because we need it too.
We need it too.
The senior citizens need it too. Your kids need it too.
That's
See,
right.
so your kids want to stay on your insurance until they're 26 too, because remember, it's a lot of their kids who are in college that need to have that health care insurance. So they don't want to be paying for that out of their pocket, and the child not paying for it. So if you can carry them on your insurance, then that's a part of what
That's
Obamacare does. And so it also, in other countries, they already have a similar Obamacare system.
Okay.
So it's America. We're behind on a lot of things, and it's not just education and healthcare, but we're behind on a lot of those things by our own doing.
Oh, wow.
Because people just don't understand, and they say, well, you want bigger government. No, this is representative government. That's why you send them to office to make laws that benefit you.
And that's why in this particular case, all the numbers showed towards Mitt Romney, but because we actually felt that we had a voice, we were able to get Obama back in presidency.
And what they didn't realize, that a lot of those, did you get a phone call about how you felt about the election?
No, I didn't.
I didn't get a call either. So how many other people did not get the call?
Wow.
See? So what I was telling people that, look, if you didn't get the call, just remember, Other people who thought like you didn't get to call either. So what they were doing was they were skewing the numbers. If I know people feel this certain way, then I'm going to call this area.
That's right.
See, because I know what I'm going to get as a response.
Yep.
And if I want another answer, I'll call this area because I know I'm going to get that response. So they weren't lying and they weren't fudging the numbers, but they knew who to poll.
That's right.
They knew who to ask, which questions, because they knew which answers that they wanted to get. So those were the numbers that they put out. And so that way they kept the Republicans, fueled up and fired up. And you would hear Governor Romney saying things like, okay, we're going to win, we're this and that. We're neck and neck, we're close, we're there. But those of us on the ground were saying, I don't know what they're talking about, but obviously they're not in the game. You're not in the game, see? Because you're not here. Your people aren't knocking on my door. Your people aren't calling me. They're not asking me what I think. They're not asking me what I want. So how many of millions of other people did not also get that call?
That's right.
So here we are. We were talking a little bit about, relationships. So look at this kind of relationship between the government and the people. So if the government doesn't speak the people's language, it's a bad relationship.
That's right.
There's
a breakdown in the communication and ultimately in the services that are being provided because they're not able to know what our needs are because there's no communication.
Exactly. So if I want to dictate to you what I want to give you
versus getting your input. Agreed.
Absolutely. You see what I'm saying? So we start talking about, government and how the government affects you. That's exactly one of the ways that government affects the people who don't get involved. So you'll hear people say things like, well, they don't do anything for me. Then my question is, what have you asked them for?
Well, that's right.
Have you made the call? Well, you don't even know. I hear people all the time with like, oh, you still at City Hall? I'm like, no. And what that leaves me with is that you didn't vote in 2012. Or 2011. Because had you voted, you would have known that.
Exactly.
So you didn't go out and cast votes. So you don't know who your elected officials are because you didn't participate in the process to get them to sit in that chair.
Okay, now talking about the voting, can we go back to the previous election? And we were talking about the Hurricane Sandy. And the impact. In your opinion, what kind of impact do you think it had on the voting, if any?
No, I think it had a great impact on the people who were riding the fence, who were trying to decide, well, Obama the elitist, Obama who doesn't connect, Obama who said yes, he would cross the aisle, but maybe that's just political.
Right.
So once the hurricane came and the call came through, and I don't know who called who. I don't know if Governor Christie called President Obama or President Obama called, Governor Christie. But whatever it was that caused the relationship happened. So it made what he said come to pass.
Okay.
That if people call me, I will come. And it doesn't matter what their party affiliation is. I will cross party lines to go ahead and help. And that's what he did.
Wow.
So I got to tell you that had to bring up Republicans over to his side because they knew for a fact that Governor Romney would not have made the same. And then there was those little subliminal words that they were using, like, stuff that we recognize that y'all need to get over the fact that y'all can't say those things anymore because we already know what they are. Those people. You talking about us. Them and they. You talking about people who look like me or people who don't look like you. Let me put it that way. Because there are tons and tons of minorities. So there's people who don't look like you. Those people. Those social services recipients. Those are trigger words that they were using to say things about us. But they forgot that in some of those were the senior citizens. Those people too. College students. Those people too. And also college students, senior citizens, people with special needs. Those people too. So all those people band together because what they realized is that was administration was not going to benefit us.
Wow.
And even some of the commentators on MSNBC, I love MSNBC. Some of the commentators on MSNBC would say, wait a minute, they're talking about me, and my mother and my father. Because Chris Matthews was saying, well, wait a minute. I live in the urban city. I live in New York. So they're talking about me. you know. And also Rachel Maddow was saying, hey, wait a minute, that's my mom, that's my
right.
dad, that's
right.
me that they're talking about. So people began to see that it wasn't only people of color that they were talking about,
Right.
but anybody who made less than $250,000 a year
Right.
was in that 40%, 47% number.
Do you think the fact that the campaign was really, the Obama campaign in terms of trying to bring out Mitt Romney's in terms of his wealth, do you think that that played against him, where folks really saw this guy that couldn't really relate to the middleman because he's so up there with his, he's a wealthy man?
Yeah, he
how
is.
In your opinion, do you think that had any impact in the voting?
Yeah, because I think that two things are going on here. One, that Mitt Romney is definitely a great businessman. So in all his deliveries and all his, commentaries that he was given, he was basically talking about business and the numbers.
Right.
What he failed to have was the personal touch.
Okay.
So, and he had been a person who had helped many businesses go to, that's why he was saying, let Michigan, auto industry go into bankruptcy, because he was a person who had made millions of dollars rescuing companies from bankruptcy.
Wow.
So if they went into bankruptcy, he already knew how to deliver them.
That's right.
At the tune of multi-million dollars.
Okay.
And see, and that's why I said people who don't watch, the talk shows are really at a disadvantage, because they broke it down. Every time a company that Bain represented went out of business,
Right.
there were millions of dollars made by Bain because they came in and rescued them, renamed the company, revamped them, gave them some different company, and then they started all over. But they paid millions of dollars to make that happen.
Okay.
So while they were doing that, they only look at the numbers. They don't look at the people that they can reach out and touch and feel and say, oh, I understand, it's your family who's being affected. No, wait a minute. We have 635 employees. If we go down to 500, our ratio will be this much. We will increase our rate, by this much. We will have this much revenue. They're only looking at the numbers. They're forgetting that those numbers are attached to families and seniors and children and communities. See, they don't see that. They're just looking at the numbers. So what the Obama administration was able to do with the help, of the Romney campaign, to let people know that this is a businessman. And if you're in business, Governor Romney is the person that you want to do business with.
That's right.
But if you're trying to represent people, then that's not who you want. Because he doesn't see you as a human being, as human nature, and, touchy-feely kind of stuff. That's not what he sees.
Do you think the news media was able to depict Romney for who he was, and that's why we were able to open our eyes and say, okay, I'm going to vote someone who really understands my needs and can meet my needs, which is Obama?
No, I think Romney did a good job of that himself.
Okay.
He did that on his own by, one, every time he said something where he tried to be inclusive, it was wrong.
Okay.
Like, they brought me binders full of women.
Oh.
How insulting is that you got to ask women organizations to go out and get you women who can qualify for positions? Why didn't they just come into your door and apply? Or why weren't they considered when they applied?
So
that
you
was
don't think
one
that
of the
was
things.
true in terms of what he said? Was it more reacting to what Obama had said?
I'm not sure. That has yet to be proven not true.
Okay.
Is it true? Did he really contact those women organizations? Did they really bring him, binders, of women to say, look, these women are qualified for these positions?
Right.
Did that really happen?
Right.
But the other thing that they kind of imploded on was the whole abortion issue, where he and Congressman Ryan both said that, if a woman had gotten raped, even through incest, that they would advocate for a full term in favor of the child over the woman.
That's right.
So,
but yet they would cut down on the program and all of those support things.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then the fact that they didn't think that public access television was important, and I know every single woman, whether they had afro or not, all their hair went up.
Oh,
like, hey, wait a minute, that's my babysitter.
That's right.
When I'm washing the dishes, that's my babysitter.
When
I'm cooking dinner, that's my babysitter.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? When I'm doing things just in the house, that's entertainment for my children. Not only that, it's a learning. It's not just just entertainment, but it's a learning experience because most of our children learn first by what they see. So if they see Big Bird, I know y'all had a big thing about Big Bird. Kids love colorful characters.
That's right.
You know, the Cookie Monster
That's
and,
right.
and Elmo and Ernie. And ask me how I know all these characters.
Because you grew up with
Not only that, because I do daycare. So my kids in the daycare love those programs too. So when I'm making their lunch, you know, or I'm fixing their food because we have to make all their meals on site, hey, they're watching Big Bird and those things while I'm preparing their meals to occupy them while I'm doing, you know, other things. So no, parents depend on those kind of programs. So that lets you know that they were out of touch with those programs. Well, maybe because, you know, he's far removed because all his kids are grown.
Yes.
And then he raised 4 boys. He didn't have any daughters. Because I'll tell you, Governor Romney, to your face, if that was your daughter or your wife who that happened to, you'd change in 20 seconds. See? But because it's an impossibility for you,
then you just foresee
you don't see it, for other people that could possibly happen. I just want to quickly remind you all that you're tuned into accesstv.org. All politics is local with your host, R. Joe Winch. Tune in often to see what the next hot topics are.
You got some hot topics.
You know, one of the things I think that I have freedom.
Yes.
You know, so when
freedom
you have
of expression.
There you go. When you have freedom of expression, you can go where you want to go. You can go on your own terms, and it doesn't depend on asking somebody to get there.
I wanted to get your opinion though. I'm still going back to the election because I'm learning because I don't follow. I have to admit I don't follow every program that's out there throughout the election. I saw only a couple of parts of the debate, to be honest with you. But one of the things I struggled with is just the first debate. The fact that Obama did not say you were wrong and what you're saying is not, correct. In your opinion, did that hurt him really that much? Because ultimately he ended up becoming president.
Yeah, I think that in the beginning, people probably were confused at why that was happening. It wasn't because he could not respond. It wasn't because he didn't know the information, but why?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to try to get into the campaign, and if you're not there, you don't know.
You don't.
So maybe the campaign might have been saying, you know what, let him just go off on a rampage and say, whatever it is, the things that he's saying, and let us just sit back and, take it in and see where it goes.
Right.
But I think if that was their plan, I don't know because I wasn't in the room.
Right.
But if that was their plan, I think that they realized that they were badly mistaken because what they did was they jeopardized the win by the first debate because people kept going back to it, saying, well, we were disappointed that he wasn't more present, that he wasn't more there, that he wasn't, actively involved. Basically, he just stood there and took it.
Right.
So it was like Ali and the rope-a-dope. I'm dating myself. But, I'm just going to take all he can give me, and then I'm going to come back and get him later.
That's right.
So you really don't know without getting into the campaign heads. And hopefully, books will be written later on about why that happened because it was very puzzling to a lot of people, and myself included. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out why is he just sitting there? Why is he standing there? But one of the things that I can say that he was doing was taking a lot of notes.
And that was intentional. He was intentionally
he was intentionally writing things down because having done several campaigns, and lost a couple campaigns, you do take note to what your opponent is saying. You're mindful to the things that are true and they're untrue. And a lot of times, one of the things that I always tell people to be careful about is sound bites. People will say things that sound good, but not necessarily true. And you were getting a lot of that from the Romney camp, where they were saying, well, and they were still saying this morning, I was hearing about, Obamacare is just too expensive to put in place. Well, if it's too expensive to put in place, well, then why did Governor Romney institute it in Massachusetts? Wow. If it wasn't too expensive for Massachusetts, why is it too expensive for the country? See, it's too expensive for the country because of the person who wants to put it in place. It was kind of like when we had our getting local, and we had our city council election, and I had put on the table for council members to get an increase in their pay to $26,000 versus $15,000. So because I was the person who put it in place, and the council was voting against me not to get back in office, they ultimately, voted themselves out of a pay raise because they got elected and I didn't.
Wow.
So you were so busy fighting Arjo that you didn't realize who you were really fighting against was yourself.
Wow.
So
that's strategy.
So you see what I'm saying? So some of those kind of things happen also on the national level. So you can lose your focus, and forget about who you're fighting for or what you're fighting about. So right after the election, the mayor got a $7,000 increase. His staff got 3 to 5% increase, and his council staff, everybody in the whole city hall got a pay increase, with the exception of the council. It's like it made absolutely no sense to me.
Okay.
But I understand why you did it. Now you gotta live with it. When you don't listen to good reasoning, those kind of things happen. Like Arsenio said, you get those, kind of moments. But it's after you already did it. Then you go, you're right.
You say that,
yeah.
And one of the things for me, one of those moments, is as they're going back and forth in terms of the candidates at the time, right? You have Obama at one time believing that he was against same-sex marriages. Now, for the sake of, I guess, getting the vote, the gay and lesbian vote, he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be against it.
Yeah.
That bothered me because I'm a Christian.
Yeah, and I'm a Christian too, and it bothered a lot of Christians. But having sat in the seat, sat in the chair on the city council, we went through the same issue about when we were passing the civil union, and the council passed a resolution to have civil union. When I was having my conversation about that, I looked at people who are gay, consenting adults. I'm talking about people who predators against children, but consenting adults who decided they want to be with each other was kind of like when we were going through the whole black-white thing, and some people who were black were so light they could pass for white, that they could go out in the world and act white, work white, live white, but knew that they were black when they had to go home, and they lived every day in fear that somebody was going to find out.
Wow.
So when I look at people who are gay, who are not able to be themselves, that's what it takes me back to. And that was one of the reasons that I was in favor of passing it, because I'm not getting to anybody's bedroom. I'm not telling you what to do in there. So if it's, and I can't push my Christianity on you. So I can't make you, if I'm in the government and I'm supposed to be representative government of all the people, then I can't put my political or my Christian views on you. Like Joe Biden, when they were having the vice president debate, he said, I'm a Catholic, but I can't push my Catholic views on everybody else. So if a woman decides that this is what she wants to do with her body, who am I?
That's right.
To stand in the way. That's between her significant other, and the doctor, who's performing. Who's performing the abortion or DNC or whatever it is you want to call it, at the time. That's up to them.
And thank you, because I never even looked at it that way. I never looked at it. I looked at it as me as a person saying, this is my choice.
This is
so
against
why
my
can't you stick to
Christianity.
it? You're right. And he's representing more
The
than
whole government. Like people say,
That's right.
well, he's the black president. No, he's the president of the United States of America.
You're right.
And not only that, he's African, he's white, and he's black. So, I mean, where you get to erase the other two cultures.
That's right.
And we talked about this earlier about my kids. My kids are like mulattoes. They're like, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, black. I mean, all in one. My granddaughter, is Jamaican, Puerto Rican, black. I mean, what am I going to do?
That's right.
I can't divide it up in three pieces and decide the part that I like.
That's right.
So just by virtue of, my children, I can't afford to be, discriminatory or racist because those are my kids.
That's right.
So I can't tell them to, take away any part of their culture.
Wow.
So, and America is a browning country. There's no more, just white people, just black people, just Latino. We're all, a conglomerate of everybody.
That's right.
So we have to respect everybody's feelings, respect everybody's opinion, and one of the things that I learned in the military so well, that there's no unimportant person.
That's right.
Everybody has a sense of importance. You got to find out what that is.
That's right.
But they're not unimportant. By virtue of being there, they bring some importance to the table.
Okay, so then we get into the immigration aspect of it.
Exactly.
And what is your thought about immigration? What do you
Yeah,
think we should be
immigration
doing?
is a very difficult thing to deal with. But look who America is. America is a country
Go ahead, girl.
that is built
Yes.
on immigration. America's standard is bring us your poor, your downtrodden, not your lazy, Obama. Bring us, Romney. Bring us those people. These are the people who risk their lives to get into America. So a lot of time when you see, other cultures, I don't even want to list them. When you see other cultures that you think are doing better than, minorities who currently were born in America, one of the things that our government does, having served in the military for 24 years, I will tell you this just in case you didn't know. One of the things that the government does, it says, look, our people have always had access to these advances. The fact that you have not taken advantage of them is you. See, you have not taken advantage. So when people come from other countries, risk their lives to come here, it's our responsibility to aid them in enhancing their lives. So, and many of us know that that's like, yeah, it's true, yeah, it's not. Because if you black and born in America, you know that your opportunities have not always been, and sometimes still aren't, the same as other Americans.
Okay.
By virtue of your income, by virtue of where you live, by virtue of a whole lot of things. I have people say, why you don't move off of Signey Street? I'm like, why would I do that? I have 18 rooms, 3 full baths, and my mortgage is very affordable.
What?
So why would I move?
I'll live with you.
Oh, see what I'm saying? So, it's all about perception.
Wow.
Because you look at a location and you see people as one thing. There you go. I don't live on the street. I live in my house. My kids don't live on the street. They live in the house. So I love my neighborhood. I ain't going nowhere.
You're proud.
I live right where I want to live by choice. So if people have a problem with that, then they have a problem with that.
They have the problem.
It's not my problem because I love my 18-room, 3 full baths. And
18
affordable mortgage. 18 rooms, 3 full baths.
Wow, that's a lot of houses.
In the hood. I live in a mini mansion. Why would I move?
Very nice.
You see what I'm saying?
In a hood.
So okay, yeah, right. And then you make a good point. There you go. Everybody live with good. Hood is just a neighborhood, but you know us. We have like all these slangs and stuff that we too lazy to say neighborhood, so we say hood. But there are neighborhoods everywhere of different kinds. You live in a neighborhood in Simsbury, in Avon, in Glastonbury. Your community is your neighborhood. So we say hood because it's just short for neighborhood. So that's how we refer it. So it's just one of those, culture things. So, no, you make your home where you live.
That's right. That's right.
And you decide that. The government doesn't decide that for you. You decide that. So wherever you think is your home, is where you're comfortable, is where you want to be, then that's where you are.
Wow.
Even when I have a conversation about some people about homelessness. So they said, we're going to rid homelessness within the next 10 years. Well, good luck. And because I have learned, through my time that everybody is not homeless because they have to
I
be.
was going to say, isn't it also have something to do with a mindset? I mean, you can go into more of where that person is mentally. I mean, there's the physical, there's the economical aspect of it. But there's also the mindset of someone being homeless. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. I know people who are homeless by choice. Like sometimes people are so distraught and so want to get away from the mainstream of life that they want nothing to do with it.
Right.
I know people who retired from good jobs that are homeless and their parents and family and children always begging them to come home, to come. No. I'm not coming. I would like it here. Even though there's cold nights, they got to figure out where they're going to sleep. They got to figure out where they're going to eat. But it's their mindset and their world, and they don't have to be there, but they are.
There. Wow.
So everybody's not homeless because they broke. Everybody's not homeless because they don't have somewhere to go.
They don't have
Some people are homeless by choice. So, and I learned that over time. I didn't always know that. And I'm like, why all these people are homeless? Why can't they go home, to their families? Don't they have kids and sisters and brothers and mothers? They do. They don't want to be with them.
But it was interesting, and I'm kind of flipping. We talk about the Hurricane Sandy and how there were a lot of homes that went through a lot of damage, and there's some families that are displaced. And I just heard about how there have been some homes available to those, and they're moving families into these other homes. Like, how come there can be such a quick reaction to Hurricane Sandy, whereas Hurricane Katrina, I mean, there's still families that are they're still displaced after years.
Government. Look who was running the government. And I'm glad you brought that up, because look who was running the government. The Republicans were running the government. The Republicans are more concerned about economics and dollars and what that means. Getting the country to a surplus. You know, making sure that, you know, the government has money to operate. Not realizing that they represent you. You know, the people in New Orleans who don't have homes. And I mean, I was elected in the was at the National Black Caucus during that period, and we actually went to tour some of those levels. And I mean, girl, it was so distraught. You'd see, you know how you have those pillars where the houses were? There was no house, just a pillar. And then there was other houses that had been floating on water that landed in another part of the town. And it was like devastating. I mean, you know, I went through a situation where me and my daughter had to relocate to Hartford without our belongings, but they were reachable.
Wow.
You know, after about 4 years, they were reachable. But these are people who lost everything, and there's no way to recoup any of it, and that's devastating. And, you know, I could tell you that is really devastating. No childhood pictures, no, you know, clothing, all the items that you collect for your children to share with them later, to share with your grandchildren, all those things, you know, people have lost. If they back them up, and I'll tell you a good idea, if you all have like pictures and stuff that you need to save, then email them to yourself. Because as long as there is an email system, you're going to always be able to access those things. So scan your pictures, send them to yourself out on the email. And then also individuals who live in apartments, make sure you get property insurance. I was just talking to Victor Luna on my way over here. We're in Hartford, Connecticut, by the way. I was just talking to Victor Luna on my way over here, and there was a fire over on Allen Place where those individuals who lived in that apartment lost all their belongings. So if you are a tenant inside anybody's apartment, make sure that you get at least $5,000 worth of property insurance. Probably cost you between $10, $17 a month. But if you have a major emergency, it's going to be worth it, because you'll be able to replace some of the things. You can't replace all of it, but you will be able to replace some of it. So invest in some type of property insurance.
Wow, good point.
So yeah, and no, it's devastating. And now they're talking about government coming to the rescue. They're also talking about creating a law where if you're, you know, in a devastating situation like that, that the government will pitch in portions of the money, because some insurance companies, if you don't have flood insurance,
I was going to say,
you're not covered.
You're not covered
at all. So if you're in a place like Hartford, where flood has really never really occurred. Now down in Groton, they've had some floods. If you live, you know, on, that's why I say, you know what, Ocean Beach property is overrated for me. I will never live there. Okay, I will never live there, because you know what,
all the money in the world,
all the money in the world cannot get me to an Ocean Beach front property. Okay, or California. I never live up on a cliff looking down. That's never going to happen.
Eventually, come on, that's got to
break down. When I was in the military, I knew people who were stationed at Travis that they said, oh, girl, it was devastating. I woke up in the morning, my living room was down the hill.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, I'm never going to live there. I'm never going to live in Florida, where I know it's hurricanes. It's a peninsula.
Thank you.
You know, and for those of you who don't know, like 3/4 of the state is surrounded by water. You're going to get a flood.
Well,
it's going to happen.
New York, you never would have thought.
You never, New Jersey, but New Jersey's like out there, it's a little peninsula too. It's out there surrounded by water. So, but I mean, who'd have thought? So you got to be, when you start talking about where to live, it ain't always about money. You got to think, you know, what could possibly happen. So buy some kind of insurance. I don't care. $5 a month, $10 a month. Go to the nearest insurance agent and get some type of property insurance.
Protect that home.
because we don't know. We are not in control of what comes from the heavens.
Well, that was obvious.
You know?
Yes.
We're not in control of that. We can try to be prepared, but that's one thing we don't control. However, scientists will say, because of going up, to Mars and traveling, that we are, in all of the smog and pollution that we put in the air, that we're creating these climates of global warming.
Oh, really?
So that was one of the things, that I'm not a scientist by any means, but I listen. So they're saying we're causing some of those things by polluting the air, by going up in space, by sticking things in Mars and putting foreign objects where they don't belong, by digging tunnels under, putting pipelines, to Alaska and those kind of things.
Wow.
That we're causing some of these things to happen to ourselves.
And that makes sense.
So,
wow.
You gotta, understand when you put things into nature that weren't originally there,
you're messing with
it does cause something. So those are some of the things that they're talking about that cause. So let's get back to where we are talking about how all politics is local. So when you're talking to your local elected officials, make sure that you understand a lot of the things that you need in your homes, in your communities, in your schools, that you need to have conversations about them. Know who they are. Put their number on speed dial. Because if you get a flood, you want to be able to contact definitely the city of Hartford, the fire department, because they're the first responders for any emergency, and they will come. I had a couple of incidents with the kids, at the child care. Hey, dial 911 before I dial the parent, and they get there quickly, because you never want to have, at your hands, somebody's child, though God forbid, that something like that happens. So do make sure that you are in tune with your local officials, and definitely make sure you keep those emergency numbers handy. And make sure that your children know where those are too, in case it's you, who have the fall or something that happens to you. Make sure that you teach your children. I got to have Desharia on here, one of these weekends, because I was just leaving the house and I'm collecting some toys because we're going to the Sportman Club tonight. So for those of you who are listening, there are several organizations having parties to collect toys for children, collect toys for children during the holidays. So, I was collecting these trucks, and I said, I'm bringing the trucks to the party tonight. So she called me on the phone. She said, Grandma, you forgot to bring the trucks with you. And I said, no, those are for the party for tonight. She said, okay, because you need both of them, right? So it's like, girl, get out my business. But but you got to be careful about what you do around your children, because them little people paying attention to everything you do.
That's right.
Because I come here at JC and McCauley's, studio shooting this show, this door that comes to the door, like, Daddy, what's going on in there?
Right.
Kids want to know. They're curious. I keep telling him, listen, that's going to be his helper one of these days. She's going to be shooting the show, and he's going to be sitting there on the couch relaxing somewhere. So, kids watch what you do. They model your behavior. And that's why it's so important that you always try to put, your best foot forward, especially when little people are around. Because none of us are perfect. Let me say that. I'm not perfect.
That's right.
I know 100% Arjo is not a perfect person.
Come on, I thought you were perfect.
I'm not perfect.
Come on now.
And I was glad to hear. I've done a lot of good things, but girl, trust me, I've done some stupid stuff too. We won't even talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, some of that stuff is so stupid. I even wonder why I'm still living. I was having a fun time with my family during the Thanksgiving, and they always bring up old stupid stories. Like the day we were playing hide and go seek. I'm telling you, to this day, I don't let my kids play hide and seek.
Why not?
Because my sister and I, the old refrigerators when they used to have the little clamp on the door.
Yes.
We were playing hide and go seek, and my mother and father had went out. We were gonna surprise them and knocking on the door when they came. Home. Girl, let me tell you, the air got tight.
Oh my!
We could not breathe. And we started pushing on that refrigerator door. If that door did not open, me and my sister would be dead today. You see what I'm saying? So those are the kind of stupid things.
You didn't finish the story.
No, we end up pushing. Well, you already know what happened.
Well,
you know what happened when my parents got home. What? There was 8 of us. I swear, my mother started on one end, my father started on the other end, and every last one of us got tore up till they got to the middle. Because they were so panically frightened that they could have come home and 2 of their kids dead in the refrigerator.
That's scary.
So I think that's why to this day refrigerators no longer have those clamps on them. Now they're like, suction closed. So you can easily get them open. Yeah. And if you're disposing of a refrigerator, they always tell you to remove the doors.
That's correct.
Because children like to find places that they should not be to hide it. So I don't let my kids play hide and seek. When my nieces and nephews come over, no, you're not. We don't do no hide and seek around here.
Really? So what kind of games do they play?
You could play computer games. You could play hangman on the wall. You could play anything you want to play while I can see you.
That's right.
Okay? You're not going to be out of sight. I will see exactly what you're doing because you're not going to get dead on my watch. That's right. Okay?
But it's
I'm just saying.
Joe, it's not even safe. I mean, nowadays, kids can't even play in their front yards without somebody trying to abduct them.
Yeah.
I mean, how effective is the Amber Alert, in your opinion? Do you think that is working well, the Amber Alert?
I think that community alert is much better. Okay. So if you know the kids who live in your neighborhood and you see them out or you see them like without their parent or they're going too far, like my granddaughter can go between my mother's house and my house.
Right.
That's like 3 houses. You can go that far.
Yeah.
That's as far as you can go. So if you go over to the neighbor right here and you get on the other side and I can't see you, I'm calling you.
Okay.
See, so you're not going to get, that far. So that way your neighbors know your kids. So like if they go inside somebody's house, I could walk out my door and be looking for my granddaughter. Oh, she went over there.
Okay.
Because people know your kids.
It is community.
So community needs to know who lives in their community because that's what the village is all about. Remember people talk about the village, and it takes a village to raise a child. People want to use it as a cliche these days, but if you have not built that relationship with your neighbors, or if you one of these kind of parents, don't be telling my child what to do. See, you're going to be one of those parents. There's a problem with the parent, so that's what's wrong with the child. Nobody don't tell me what to do. Okay, so when your child running across that street, and the car is coming, and nobody don't yell out to your kid to stop, you're going to get hit, then, where's the blame? Because you have already told your neighbors not to interfere when it comes to your child. Wow. That's not my house. If you see my kid doing something, you check them on your side. When you call me, I'm going to check them too.
That's right.
Because trust me, my kids will not, wait a minute, my kids will not tell, my daughter is 24 years old. She hate when I talk about her. And so one of my friends, it must have been maybe this summer, I saw her doing something. And she told her about it. My daughter did not come home and tell me. My friend called me and told me. My daughter never told me.
Yeah, but kids.
And I didn't say a word to her.
But kids are like that.
Exactly, but I didn't say a word to her because what?
You still didn't bring it up until this day.
I did not bring it up till right now.
Oh, wow.
Because you know what? The message had been delivered. That hey, even when I see you, I know I'm not your mother, but I know your mother would not approve of that.
Wait a minute, so she did tell your daughter
to
stop and
exactly, and then she told me. Okay. But my daughter never told me that she told her. Wow. See, because she knew that I was going to let into her, and she's 24 years old. Like what? But the fact that the friend did it, then I didn't have to. You see what I'm saying? That's right. Because my kids, they always want to, Grandma, how you know that? My granddaughter. Grandma, how you know? Listen, I got eyes and ears everywhere. Because I can't be everywhere my kids are. So you got to depend on other adults and other people that you trust to let you know what your kids are doing. That's right. But we had that when we were growing up.
We did.
And they didn't even have cell phones. So how your mother knew? Before you even get home, you already knew what was going on down the street. Oh, yeah, I know. Like, how you know?
That's all. That connection.
Right, there you go. There you go.
But the key thing for me, too, is prayer. Because there are some things even... you have the community.
That relationship.
It's that relationship. Absolutely. If you have a relationship.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we have to, be careful of when you talk about, Christian relationships or faith relationships in politics, you got to somehow you got to separate, those kind of things. And people will say, well, there's a separation between church and state. Well, you know what? Not really. Because when I'm sitting at the office making a decision about what I think is right for people, I bring my morals with me. Would that be morally right? Am I giving people something that they can deal with, or am I trying to push my Christianity on the other person? So you got to be really careful about how you do those things, because I don't want to try to force anybody. Like my sister's Muslim, You know, and then my brother-in-law is Catholic. So we have like exactly, and nowhere we got more. And then my cousins are Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
So in our house we don't even talk about religion.
Wow.
Because I mean, you're gonna get into a whole big heated conversation about who believe what,
That's right.
and all of us born to the same family.
Right.
But when it comes to religion, it's such a personal relationship that government just don't belong there.
That's right.
So everybody got to have their own sense of government. So you be who you want to be. You believe in what you want to believe in. And then what about atheists? I have some family members that I don't believe in God. But like they be like, oh God. So why you say that?
Thank you. It's an expression of their
So why you say that?
Yeah, but that's hard. I mean, you got at some level. I believe, and again, this is your show. But I just believe for me that there's got to be some kind of education. However, you're going to steer folks, and I'm not saying you per se, but in general, the concept. Right. Everyone has their own belief, but at some level, isn't there a sense of responsibility to kind of show and help people, usher them into an understanding that there is a God?
Well, there's a supreme being. There's something greater than that.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's a lot that's wrong with our school system, and a lot that's wrong with our children in our communities, because if the children only think that the parent, the teacher, the whoever is seeing what they do, then when they're not around,
they can do whatever.
They could do whatever.
Right.
But if you believe, that something or somebody is watching over me and see what I do, then you're gonna be like, oh well, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe that's not right, or should I do that? Might cause you some, pause. Not like you're still not gonna make bad decisions, but gonna kind of cause you some pause because you believe that there's something more supreme than you that's watching your behavior.
Well said. Yes, I agree.
So
I agree.
You just got to be careful about trying to direct what that is.
That's right.
So because everybody has their own
opinion,
belief. But I always find
beliefs.
it interesting that people say, well, I don't believe in Christmas, I don't believe in Thanksgiving, I don't believe in birthdays, I don't believe, So to me, when you start talking about those kind of things, like, is that what you don't believe in, or is it a part of who you are? Because sometimes people can be really, to me, culty.
Right.
So it's not so much of a belief about humanity. It's more about following the ritual, of a cult.
That's right.
Because them same family members come over on Thanksgiving, and
That's right. They eat that Thanksgiving meal.
Okay, yeah, and they, share toys. Well, I'm not gonna get anything, but it's okay if my kids get toys.
That's right.
And that kind of stuff. So I'm like, or the ones who don't believe in God, let something happen. They get to a prayer in 5 seconds.
That's right.
See, so it's an individual relationship. So I don't try to determine what people's level of Christianity or their beliefs are, because that's one of the things that they get to determine, and it's not for government to decide.
Right. Beautiful.
So yeah. So so hopefully I'm helping you.
You are. You've opened my eyes to so many different levels of understanding, and what I do appreciate is you're not judging me.
Right,
I have
absolutely.
my own interpretation, or I'm seeking some definition of certain things, and you're able to steer me in the direction that I feel comfortable accepting.
Well, that's good. So that's what these kind of things are about. That's what talk shows are about. That's what talk shows do. Educate people, bring things to their home, try to bring it, where people have an understanding of what people are talking about. Sometimes people want to use those 5,000, $60 million words, and nobody understands what it is except them. I tell you a quick story. When I was on the council, Councilman Cotto and I, somebody said a big word, we didn't know what it was. We like. We gonna look that up, we're like, oh, good one, or like, oh yeah, I'll keep that, I'll keep that one, I'll use that later.
That's right.
We said had so much fun, going back and forth, we texting, oh yeah, got that one, So education is everywhere. You continue to learn, and no matter what the avenue is, no matter where you are, no matter what table you sit at, if you stop learning, then I'm like, you might just stop living. And anyone can teach you something. My kids teach me stuff every single day.
Every day.
Every day I learn something from those little kids. And they're like under 3 years old, but every day I'm like, oh, okay. The light comes on, like,
That's right.
oh, all right, I see that. Because you
I
always think that people are going to see what you see, like they've been where you've been.
Right.
And they've not.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Because even in your life, you have experiences that I don't, haven't been through, I haven't seen and stuff.
I got experiences right now. Oh,
So we will talk about that. You have a new show coming up. We'll take a few minutes and go ahead and talk about that. You have a new show I hear coming up, and
it's called The Relationship Show. Just talking about all aspects of a relationship, and it doesn't have to be about a man and a woman. It's any kind of relationship that you may have. It could be at work. It could be even in the street when you're running into somebody. What kind of interaction do you have with that person? And we're just going to cover all areas. It's going to be an open discussion, and you're going to be on the show.
Ooh, that'll be interesting. Cause trust me, I have some experiences. What? I don't know if some of them I can share on the air.
Oh, please, that's great. People need to learn. You got to get comfortable and just express. And part of the thing, to your point, is you may think, okay, through the discussion, something may come to light that you didn't know about yourself.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I've had that experience.
That's right, and sometimes we need to celebrate ourselves. You know what? We went through a situation and we were able to rise above it, and it's because of who we are. And that can happen through the interaction and communication when you have, the discussion between somebody else. Absolutely.
All right, so I want all of y'all to be on the lookout. Look out for Lorre's show, The Relationship Show. Lorre's going to be talking about all kinds of relationships, school relationships, boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, husband and wife relationships. I'm going to make sure I stay out of that one. Okay. Significant other relationships.
That's right.
So be on the lookout for the Relationship Show. I want to thank you all for joining us today on All Politics is Local. I had a great time talking with Lorre. Hopefully you all have a great time, listening to our conversations, and we'll see you all again next week on All Politics is Local.